إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار وبعد. To continue, barakallahu feekum, from that which we began last week from the words of the great Imam of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Imam Abu Muhammad al-Barbaharee rahimahullah ta'ala, who died in the year 329 after the Hijrah, over 1,000 years ago. This great Imam, he compiled this great work known as the Sharhus sunnah, or the explanation of the Sunnah, in essence the explanation of the belief of the people of Sunnah, the explanation of the belief of the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, a clarification of the truth and a criterion whereby he lays down those principles that are found in the Quran and the Sunnah and uses them as the criterion between haqq and batil, between a measure between the people of truth and that which is truth and that which is falsehood. In this point that he mentions فَانْظُرْ رَحِمَكَ اللَّهُ كُلَّ مَنْ سَمِعْتَ كَلَامَهُ مِنْ أَهْلِ زَمَانِكَ خَاصَّةً فَلَا تَعْجَلَنَّ. He mentions, so investigate and look. May Allah have mercy upon you. The speech of everyone you hear from, especially from the people of your times. So do not be hasty. وَلَا تَدْخُلَنَّ فِي شَيْءٍ مِّنْهُ. And do not enter into anything from it up until حَتَّى تَسْأَلَ وَتَنْظُرَ, up until you ask and you see, you investigate. هل تكلم فيه أحد من أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ورضي الله عنهم أو أحد من العلماء, or did any of the ulama speak with this speech that you are listening to in your time? فإن أصبت فيه أثرا عنهم فتمسك به. And if you come across a narration from them, meaning from the Salaf of this ummah and from the A'immah of al-Islam, فَتَمَسَّكْ بِهِ, then cling to it. وَلَا تَجَاوِزْهُ, and do not go beyond it, لِشَيْءٍ, for anything. وَلَا تَخْتَرْ عَلَيْهِ شَيْئًا فَتَسْقُطْ فِي النَّارِ, and do not go beyond that for anything, and thereby that you choose anything over it, فَتَسْقُطَ فِي النَّارِ, and by that you land yourself into the hellfire. We reach the point after Sheikh al-Fawzaan mentions the danger of basing your religion upon individuals who just speak, that they talk and you just listen to them because they sound nice, not because that they are speaking with the kitab and the sunnah, not because that they have ulama who are behind them, not because these individuals are people of Ahlus Sunnah, but you just follow them and you just listen to them because they sound nice. So Shaykh al-Fawzan, hafidhahullah ta'ala, he mentioned various statements with regard to the affair of being safe and protecting oneself, to the point that he reached the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that indeed Allah hates the eloquent man who moves his tongue around his teeth just as the cattle do. And likewise the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which he said, indeed in some speech there is sorcery or bewitchment, there is magic in some of the speech of the people, meaning, as he has mentioned, that it bewitches or it plays magic upon the ear. And all of this, of course, the point being that we don't just listen to a person because that person is talking, but rather we listen to him based upon some principles. And we mentioned some of those statements of the Salaf, from them that statement of Muhammad bin Sirin, rahimahullah ta'ala, who died in the year 110 after the Hijrah. And she said that he met over 30 of the companions of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which he said that before the fitna began, that we never used to ask the people. This is the fitna, in which time? In the time of the Sahaba, when bid'ah became widespread. He said, we never used to ask the people. But when the fitna began, and the people, that they started following their desires, and the killing began because of that, he said, then we used to ask the people, name us your men. We used to ask them, name us your men. Who are your scholars? Who are your ai''imma? Who are the scholars that you are referring to? Name them to us. If they were from the people of Sunnah, meaning from the Sahaba, and those who took from the Sahaba, then we used to accept their narrations. And if they were from the people of Bid'ah, then we used to reject them. So likewise in our times, in fact, wallahi, my brothers and sisters, wallahi, in these times it is more important, because the misguidance and the following of desires is more apparent in our times. Hard for the simple person to distinguish between, who do I take from? Do I take from him? He sounds good. Do I take from him? He sounds good. Do I take from that one? He sounds good. This audio that I hear, this YouTube link, this lecture, that lecture. How does the average simple person, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide our brothers and sisters, how are these individuals supposed to recognize truth from falsehood? By implementing, ya ikhwan, that we get this message out to them, that you implement these principles, you establish these usul and these qawaid. Do not take knowledge except from someone who is known. Leave alone those who are majahil, those who are unknown. We're not even criticizing them. The unknown person, we're not criticizing him. We're saying that he is unknown, so don't take knowledge from him. Then how about the one who is known for misguidance? Then it is more appropriate that we do not take any knowledge from him. So these principles are tremendous, but they are hard to implement. Why? Because the heart becomes soft. Because we don't want to say to a person that I don't want to listen to you. So the heart becomes soft, and when the heart becomes soft, then shaitan uses that as an opportunity. So the heart should be like Ibn Qayyim said when he went to Ibn Taymiyyah. Because in the early days, Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, as some of the scholars have mentioned, that he was affected by the people of Sufiyyah, Tasawwuf. Then he met Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. And Ibn Taymiyyah taught him the Aqidah. And by the permission of Allah, he guided him aright. So he went to Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah on an occasion. And look at the level of Ibn Qayyim, ya ikhwan. Ibn Qayyim is not a small scholar. He's from the greatest of the ai''imma of his time. Only one really that you could say in his time excelled him was his sheikh, Ibn Taymiyyah. But in his time, is there anyone of the level of Ibn Qayyim? Rahimahullah ta'ala. Al-Jawziyah died in the year 752. So he went to Ibn Taymiyyah, said to Ibn Taymiyyah, my heart becomes soft when I listen to the people, and when I hear things, the heart is soft. So how do I protect my heart? So Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala gave him some tremendous advice, that let us take it on board also, ya ikhwan. And this narration I heard from Muhammad ibn Hadi al-Madkhali, hafidhahullah ta'ala, from the ulama of our times. He mentioned this to us in 1996, ya ikhwan. And I never forgot it from that day till this day. 1996, Sheikh Muhammad ibn Hadi al-Madkhali, when he visited us in the United Kingdom, alongside Sheikh Abdul Salam Burgess, rahimahullah, who passed away from the judges of Riyadh, and also Sheikh Muhammad al-Anjari. Sheikh Muhammad ibn Hadi said that Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah advised Ibn Qayyim. He said to him, do not make your heart like a sponge that just absorbs anything that comes to it. Rather, make your heart like a mirror that shines and it reflects off that which is not good and that which is not beneficial. So make your hearts like a mirror, ya ikhwan. Don't make your hearts like a sponge. And inform our brothers and sisters, inform them that we don't take knowledge from anybody unless that person is known. As for the one who is unknown to us, then we don't say that this man is an evil man because we don't know him. But because we do not know him, we refrain from taking knowledge from that person up until he is known to us. How is he known to us? then he is known by several ways. The first of those ways that we know that individual is that he is known by the people who are people of knowledge, either of the land that he lives in or from those who he has studied under, that they have praised him. So he's known to us because of this. So for example, if there's a person in England and he is a person that the people say take knowledge from him, but he is unknown, then how do we know to take knowledge from him? We ask the people of this land, those who have something by way of studying. Not that they are ulama, or not that they are great scholars and muhaddithin, but they have something by way of holding on firm, and they are people who have this tamassuk, and they are known for the kitab and the sunnah, not just for 6 months or a year or 2 years, but those who are known in that particular land for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years upon the sunnah. And when you ask them, so and so is giving knowledge, should we sit with him? And they say, we don't know him. Then you ask, is there anyone else who may know him? Then you send him to somebody else. Go and ask Fulan, maybe he knows him. Up until you come across someone who knows him. But in that interim period, you do not take knowledge from that individual. Why? Not because he is a fasiq, not because we say that he is a major sinner, not because we say that he is a deviant, because we don't know his hal, but merely because of the fact that he is unknown. That's why Muhammad ibn Sirin said, name us your men. Who knows you? Who is the person that we can go back to and say, they know you for adherence to the kitab and the sunnah? That's why we take from Sheikh al-Albani, Sheikh ibn Baz, Sheikh ibn Uthaymeen, Sheikh Rabi', Sheikh al-Fawzaan, Sheikh Muqbil. Why do we take from these great a'imma? Because those who were their peers, and those who were greater than them, and those who were equal to them, that those scholars of their time, that they praised them and they directed us to them. From those affairs, ya ikhwan, is that a person, who did you study under? Who knows you from Ahlul Ilm that they can say that yes, this person, he attended my durus, and I know him for steadfastness upon the sunnah. I know him for goodness upon the deen. Who can we call from those ulama? So the people of that land should know him. The people of knowledge from the lands of Islam, such as Saudi Arabia, and such as other than that, Kuwait or other than that those ulama, that they know him. And then we can say, na'am, we know him. So the people of your land and the people that you studied under. Your adherence to the kitab and the sunnah, this is the greatest of all tazkiyat. That person is upon the book of Allah, the sunnah of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and upon the usul and the qawaid that the Salaf of this ummah were upon in their understanding of the kitab and the sunnah. So does he speak with that which the Sahaba speak? Does he speak with the speech of Ahlul Ilm? Does he have love for the people of sunnah? Another distinguishing sign. So kitab, sunnah, upon the way of the Sahaba. When he speaks, that's what you hear from him. Also additionally, that this individual, that you find him, that he is firm upon his positions. He firmly holds on to them. He's not a person who refers to the books of the people of bid'ah. He does not speak with the speech of the Jahmiyyah, or the Qutubiyyah, or the Jamaat al-Tabligh. You don't see him sitting in his dars, and then he praises one of the heads of the people of bid'ah. His teachers are not from the people of bid'ah. If they are, then that person, he makes bara'ah from them. That I used to be with Fulan and I am free from him. These are from the signs that you recognize for the people of haqq. And this is why Sheikh al-Fawzaan places so much emphasis upon this affair. So he reaches the point, and this is the point that we reached last week. فَقَوْلُهُ فَانْظُرْ رَحِمَكَ اللَّهِ كُلَّ مَنْ سَمِعْتَ كَلَامَهُ مِنْ أَهْلِ زَمَانِكَ خَاصَّةً فَلَا تَعْجَلَنَّ وَلَا تَدْخُلَنَّ فِي شَيْءٍ مِّنْهُ. He mentions, look, may Allah have mercy upon you, into the speech of everyone, especially from the speech that you hear, the speech that comes to you and you have heard, from the people of your time especially. And don't be hasty. And do not enter into anything from that. Hastiness, ya ikhwan. Which is the disease of many of us. The disease that we have is, oh, I can't wait. I need to know now. I need to know this very minute. And if I don't find out today or tomorrow, then khalas, I'm going to just go and sit with that person. And I'm going to start listening to their speech. Why? Because you didn't get your answer in 48 hours. Or you didn't get your answer. It doesn't matter if you don't get your answer in a year. The whole of the deen is not based in that one speech or that one lecture that you want to go to, or that person that you claim, or it has been claimed about him that he speaks well. No, there's no rush. The book of Allah is in front of you. You can read that for 24 hours. Over the next 6 months. You can read the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. You are in no rush. What's the rush now? Is it that the people of knowledge and the students of knowledge, they have perished from the earth? That if you don't get an answer that I asked, but no one gave me an answer, so I went there anyway. No, ya ikhwan. That's what he said, Imam al-Barbaharee. Do not be hasty and do not enter into it. And then he mentions the condition thereafter that you know. What does he say? حَتَّى تَسْأَلَ وَتَنْظُرْ. Up until you ask and that you look. So up until you ask. So I've asked. I didn't get the answer. So I go in and I dive in head first. No, you wait. If you don't get an answer, then don't rush. You are not obligated to go and listen to the lecture of Fulan and Fulan. The ulama that we know, they are alive. The people in your particular land that you live in, whether it be in Canada or the United States or in France or in Sweden or in Holland or in Belgium or even in the lands of Islam, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia or in Kuwait or in Egypt or in Yemen, the people of Sunnah are alive in those lands. Your deen will not be destroyed, insha'Allah, if you do not take your knowledge from this majhul. In fact, rather your deen will be safe because you implemented the principles of the Kitab and the Sunnah. So this was the case in the time of the author. Sheikh al-Fawzaan mentions, هذا في وقت المؤلف. This is in the time of the author. The author was very close to the era of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal because he was from the students of his students. So this is in that era, over 1,000 years ago. So he says, do not rush to accept the speech of the people of your time up until حتى تتثبت منه, up until you verify that information. So what about in our time now? In an era of ahwa, in an era in the time that we're living in now, we are now in the 15th century Hijri. We are in the 15th century. In this time, Barbaharee died in 329, over 1,100 years ago. So if that in his time they had to make tathabbut, they had to verify, then how about in our times? أين هو من عصرنا الآن? Where is he with respect to our time now? Meaning that if that was the case that Barbaharee said in his time, then what about in our time? An era of ahwa, of people follow desires, and an era in which ignorance is widespread, an era of mixing of the world itself, meaning here, of course, that every single culture and all the various ideas that they have become mixed up now in our time. وَأَسْرِنَا اختلاط العلم اختلاط العالم بعدهم ببعد. In a time in which that the dunya, one part of the world has mixed with the other part of the world. حتى أصبح يموج بالفتن والشرور والأفكار. Up until it has swelled up, meaning the earth now, it has swelled up with fitan, with tribulations and evil and false ideologies. And the enemy now desires, the enemy of al-Islam, meaning from the kuffar and the munafiqeen, that they desire the heart and the soul of the religion itself, from its head to its heels, that they desire it for its destruction. He wants, meaning the enemy of al-Islam, that he wants that we follow him. He wishes to impose upon us his ideologies and his politics. So upon us is to verify the affairs. to withhold from such affairs, to withhold from much of the affairs, and that we only accept the affairs upon the correct understanding of the speech of Allah. This is how we accept the affairs of the deen. Having fiqh and having understanding is a protection for us. And fiqh is to have understanding. It is possible for a person to have much hifdh. He has memorized much, but he has no understanding. In fact, Sheikh al-Fawzān mentions, in fact, this person and the average person are the same in their understanding. So a person has memorized much, but his understanding and the simple person's understanding is the same. In fact, the army, the simple person and the average person may even be better than him, because the average person will withhold. He'll stand back because he knows that he is ignorant. This one doesn't even know that he's ignorant. And this is deception, of course, from shaitan. Because how does the shaitan work? The shaitan tells him, look, you've memorized the whole Quran. You've memorized this. You've memorized this many hadith. You've memorized the 40 hadith of Imam al-Nawawi. You've memorized 20 hadith from Bukhari. You've memorized 100 hadith from Sahih Muslim. Look, you've got knowledge. Go and talk. He goes and talks, but he has no understanding. He doesn't know the aqeedah. He doesn't know the manhaj. He has never sat with the scholars. He doesn't know Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal from Yusuf al-Qardawi. Doesn't know the difference. This individual is deceived. And this is why the average Salafi who does not have knowledge is better than him. Is better than him. Because at least the average person who does not have knowledge, he knows that I'm jahil. So he will not put himself into affairs that he does not understand. As for this one, then shaitan has deceived him and made him think that he is better than what he is. And this one doesn't even know that he is ignorant. So the affair, my brothers and sisters, is not about much memorization. That is not the measure. MashaAllah, alhamdulillah, if he's memorized, better. But what comes before memorization is fahm and fiqh. This is more important than memorization. You can make a parrot memorize all of the Quran. You can make a person just read and memorize. You ask him the simplest question. You ask him, what is Tawheed? Just 1 minute on the subject of Tawheed. You've memorized the Quran from Al-Fatiha to An-Nas. From the beginning of it right till the end of it. In this Quran that you've memorized, with all of the surah and all of the ayat in the book of Allah, surely you can talk to me about Tawheed for 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Surely. And you find him stumbling after the first 10 seconds. So how has that knowledge, how has that hifdh benefited him? We don't say that there is no virtue in hifdh. Indeed there is. For the people who memorize the book of Allah, a great, mighty mountain of virtue from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But with the understanding of the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the aqeedah, what the Quran is telling you, what the Quran is informing you, what the Quran is guiding you towards, what the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam are commanding you with, what they are forbidding you from, knowing that which the Quran is trying to tell you. That is the importance of the revelation of the Quran. Not like the donkey that carries a burden on its back but it doesn't know what it's carrying. What's on your back? And the donkey is not even able to answer you. A Muslim should not be like that, ya ikhwan. That we have the book of Allah. We have the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we memorize them, but we don't know what we're memorizing. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said in a hadith, alayhi salatu wassalam, he said, رُبَّ مُبَلِّغ or مُبَلَّغ أَوْعَى مِنَ السَّامِعِ. That it is possible, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that the muballigh is aw'a min as-sami' or min sami'. That the one who is carrying the knowledge or conveying the knowledge has the one to whom the knowledge is conveyed will understand it better than the one who heard it. And the full hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, let those who are present convey to those who are absent. Perhaps the one whom it is conveyed to will understand it better than the one who heard it originally. So then Sheikh al-Fawzan, he mentions, so a person memorizes and he relays and he narrates narrations, but there may be someone with better understanding than him. Better understanding than him. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, may Allah bless a man who hears a hadith from us and he memorizes it so that he conveys it to others. For perhaps he is conveying it to someone who will understand it better than him. And the words that Sheikh al-Fawzan takes from that hadith is where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, رُبَّ هَامِلِ فِقْهٍ وَهُوَ غَيْرُ فَقِيهٍ. For the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and perhaps the one who carries the fiqh or carries this knowledge does not understand it himself. So then Shaykh al-Fawzan, he mentions, after mentioning the first hadith, by the way, in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, from the hadith of Abi Bakr. And the second hadith reported by Imam Ahmad in his Musnad, Abu Dawud in his Sunan, and other than them from the books of Sunan. So then Shaykh al-Fawzan, he mentions that he carries it and he relays it, but he is not someone who understands it. So having fiqh and having understanding is a gift from Allah. And Allah gives it to whomsoever He wishes from His servants. However, it is the one who takes advantage of it and increases upon it, then he benefits from it. And whoever regards it to be unimportant, then he loses it. Then he is the one who loses it. And as for the saying of Imam al-Barbaharee, فَلَا تَعْجَلَنَّ وَلَا تَدْخُلَنَّ فِي شَيْءٍ مِّنْهُ حَتَّى تَسْأَلَ وَتَنْظُرَ. So do not be hasty and do not enter into anything from that, meaning from what is conveyed to you in your time, up until you ask and you look, هل تكلم فيه أحد من أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم? Up until you ask and you inquire, did anyone from the companions of Allah's Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم speak with these words that he's talking with? Any of them? So this is a mighty counsel. هذه وصية عظيمة. إن أعجبك كلام من أحد في الدين أما كلام الذي في أمور الدنيا فليس موضوع البحث. He mentions this is a mighty piece of advice or a mighty piece of counseling. If you are amazed by the speech of anyone in the deen, as for the speech in the affairs of the dunya, then this is not the subject matter or the point of study here. However, if you are amazed by the speech in religion, then don't be hasty in accepting it up until you investigate it. It is established that is it established upon the truth? Is it established upon the proofs? Those are the questions that you ask. Or is it from the top of someone's head? And is it from the ideas that the person is bringing himself, his own thoughts? So he mentioned Shaykh al-Fawzan. He said, فَهَذَا غُثَاءٌ. This is scum. كَغُثَاءِ السَّيْلِ. Just like the scum on top of the flood water. أُتْرُكُهُ. So abandon it, leave it alone, don't go near it. If it is, however, based and built upon the book and the sunnah, then no doubt it is haqq. So do not be hasty in taking and accepting the speech without thinking, without pondering. And that is even if you are taken aback by the eloquence and the use of expressions and its power, meaning the power of language and the expressive language. Still do not be hasty concerning it up until you investigate and present it to the book and the sunnah. Meaning that you look at it in light of the book and the sunnah. Don't say, mashallah, he sounded good. Mashallah, he was quoting. No, compare it. Is that understanding, my brothers and sisters? That which you are listening to, and that which you are, that let's say for example, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you and not cause you to be from those people, that perchance that you started listening to someone who is unknown, or a person that is known to be a deviant, but you fell into that trap. Then when you listen to him, and then you say to yourself, that sounds good, he's very eloquent, he's reading from the book of Allah, that is not enough, ya ikhwan. Even if he reads you from the book of Allah and from the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wallahi, in the time of Imam Ahmad, someone came to Imam Ahmad and they asked him about a person in his time who had knowledge, al-muhasabi. And they asked him concerning him. They said to him, should we listen to him? He said, no. They said, but he often quotes hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. He said, Imam Ahmad became angry to the person who was asking him. He said he became angry and his face became red. He said, what is wrong with you? Will you listen to everyone who just quotes you the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yet he is known to be an innovator? My brothers and sisters, is there an innovator in the dunya except that he quotes the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? All the mubtadi'ah, from the time of the early scholars till this day, will quote the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they will quote the book of Allah. Because this is what they used to deceive the people with. And this is why the scholars compile these works, so that the person would read and say, this is the aqeedah of Ahmad ibn Hanbal. This is the understanding of Ahmad ibn Hanbal. This is the understanding of Malik ibn Anas. This is the understanding of Sufyan al-Thawri. This is the understanding of Abdullah ibn Umar. This is the understanding of Abu Hurraira and Anas ibn Malik. This is the understanding of Abdullah ibn Abbas. This is the understanding of Aisha radiyallahu anha. So when a person reads these works, he knows that when now someone comes and opposes these words, now we know you can quote 50 or 100 hadith in one dars. If you oppose the aqeedah of Imam al-Barbaharee and Ahmad ibn Hanbal and Ibn Battah and Malik ibn Anas and Sufyan al-Thawri, we will not take from you. If you oppose the aqeedatul wasitiyah of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, or if you oppose the aqeedah of the likes of Abdul Aziz ibn Baz and Ibn Taymiyyah and Shaykh al-Albani and Shaykh Muqbil, we know that you are a person that we do not take knowledge from. But before that, there's a stage that comes before that. What's that stage? That stage is that even before we open our ears, that we establish the trustworthiness of this person that's speaking. We don't care how white his beard is, how old he is, how rich he is, how poor he is, how short his thobe is or how long his beard is. Wallahi, that is not taken into consideration. What is taken into consideration before we take knowledge, name us your men. Name them to us. What do you say about Bin Baz? Did you study under him? Ibn Taymiyyah? Did you meet them? Al-Albani, Muqbil bin Hadi, Sheikh Rabi', Al-Fawzaan. Who are the people in your land from amongst Sharhus sunnah who know you? Then we will go and ask them. We will ask Sheikh Ubaid about you. We will ask Muhammad ibn Hadi about you. We will ask Rabi' al-Madkhali about you. We will ask Zayd al-Madkhali about you. And we will ask the people of the land that you are giving da'wah in, from Sharhus sunnah. We will ask them, what do they know about you? Where have you come from? Are you a person who's trustworthy in religion? And are you trustworthy with regard to the speech of the people? As Imam Malik said, and he mentioned a list, 5 who knowledge is not to be taken from, and hadith are not to be taken from. He said one of them is a man who lies upon the people. Not lies upon the Prophet ﷺ, he lies upon the people. If he lies upon the people, then don't accept knowledge from him. Don't accept hadith from him. Because if he lies upon the people, he will lie upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Barakallahu feekum ya ikhwan, that we are very careful with regard to this affair. So he said, and investigate and look. That you look at this person, na'am, that he mentioned, going back to where we were. He said, Sheikh al-Fawzan, this is, after mentioning that we don't look at their eloquence or the use of their expressions to misguide the people, still do not be hasty concerning it up until you investigate and you compare his speech and you present his speech to the Kitab and the Sunnah, and you look to whether the one speaking with it, is he a faqih or not. He's speaking with the ayat of the Book of Allah. He's speaking with the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Is he faqih? Is he a person who has understanding of that? Then he said, Shaykh al-Fawzan, until you ask the scholars concerning him or concerning his speech. Ask the scholars. Yes, Shaykh, we have someone in our land. Do you know him? Do you know him, O Shaykh? Shaykh Ubaid, do you know him? Shaykh Rabi', do you know them? Shaykh Zayd, do you know them? Shaykh Muhammad ibn Hadi, do you know them? Shaykh Abdullah Bukhari, do you know them? They're in our land. And they have a masjid. And they give da'wah and they give duroos. Ya Shaykh, do you know them? Do they visit you? Do they call you? Do they seek knowledge from you? Ask, ya ikhwan. And even the person who is sitting in front of you, ask him, who knows you from the scholars? Who knows you from the people of your land? This is no joke, ya ikhwan. This affair of knowledge is your deen, as Muhammad ibn Sirin said. So look from whom you take your knowledge. Look and investigate. So then Shaykh al-Fawzani mentions, and this is something that I've warned from many times, that you do not speak with the ijtihadat or the judicial opinions or with the views or with these ara, that you do not speak with them, and with the sayings of the people, and with the expressions of the people, that you have no precedence for. Take the example of the Salaf and the speech of the early generations. If there comes to you anything for which you have no precedence, meaning Abdullah ibn Umar didn't speak with it, Ibn Abbas didn't speak with it, Abu Hurraira didn't speak with it, the Sahaba didn't speak with it, the wives of the Prophet ﷺ didn't speak with it, the greater tabi'un, they did not speak with it, those who followed them, they did not speak with it. In fact, no one from the early Salaf, rather the speech of this man is opposed by them. So he said, take the example of the Salaf and the speech of the Salaf, and if there comes to you anything for which you have no precedence, then know that speech is shudud. That it is فَإِنَّهُ يَكُونُ شُذُوذًا. Then that speech, then it is shudud. Shudud meaning that it is abnormal, it is contradictory, and its danger is greater than its benefit. So a person may sit and say, well, I can benefit something. But look what the ulama they say, ya ikhwan. Look what the ulama they are saying. Do you think, and we'll finish upon that, but do you think, ya ikhwan, that we know better than the Salaf of this ummah? This is Barbaharee. We know better than Barbaharee. Amazing. Wallahi, it amazes me sometimes how little concern we have from where we are taking our knowledge, who we are speaking to. When Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, and before him, the likes of Fudayl ibn Iyad, rahimahullah, who died in the year 187, and likewise also Ash-Sha'bi, died in the year 104. I remember these three clearly. Imam al-Ajuri, Fudayl ibn Iyad, Ash-Sha'bi, and Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. Look what they said. They said with regard to the person, they said that if the Salaf of this ummah, how were they? They said that the mubtadi', the innovator, the person of misguidance, that they would not take knowledge from him. They would not sit with him. They would abandon him, and they would not give him salam. Then Fudayl ibn Iyad, look what he said. Fudayl ibn Iyad said, by Allah, the one who gives his daughter in marriage to the innovator, he has cut off the ties of her kinship. Ash-Sha'bi said, whomsoever gives his daughter in marriage to the fasiq, to the open sinner, he has cut off the ties of the womb. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah said that this was the way of the Salaf. Do not give them salam. Who? He says the callers to bid'ah. We're not talking about the average person. The average person, wallahi, that there was a time when we didn't know the da'wah. Unless you were born into a Salafi family, and your parents were Salafi, and they brought you upon Salafiyah, which is a ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That our children, by Allah, they should be grateful to Allah if their parents are Salafi. How many of us sitting here today that we did not come from Salafi backgrounds? We did not know except the little that our parents taught us, if we were Muslim. And if you weren't Muslim, then your background is what? Christian, Hindu, Sikh, Jew, whatever. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided us to Salafiyah. So we recognize the difference between that which we were upon and that which Allah guided us to. So it's like black and white. That Allah took us from the darkness of misguidance, whether it was kufr or shirk or drowned in innovations. And then Allah illuminated the path for us. It was like a person blind, can't see. Heart dead. And then Allah revives his heart and makes his heart start beating again. He was blind and Allah made him see the world. This is the difference between a person who is upon bid'ah, misguidance, and shirk, and kufr, upon Christianity, or upon Brelwiyah, or Sufiyah, or Qadiriyah, or Tablighiyyah, and then Allah shows him the sunnah. Like Yusuf bin Asbat. Yusuf bin Asbat, ya ikhwan, from the great A'immah of the Salaf. He said, my father was a Qadari. Denied Qadr. And we remember the dars. Remember the dars of Al-Ha'iyah, the Qadariyah. He said, my father was a Qadari, denied the Qadr of Allah. The brothers of my mother were all Rafida. They used to swear at Abu Bakr and Umar and Aisha. Then I met Sufyan. And Allah guided me by way of Sufyan. Rahimahullah ta'ala. Look at this, ya ikhwan. From darkness into light. Yusuf bin Asbat. And how many of the Salaf were like that? Even Sahaba radiallahu anhum. Some of those narrations, such as Ibn Sa'ad and others they mention, from Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. Some of those narrations mention that Umar used to torture the Muslims before he became Muslim. Umar used to torture the Muslims before he became Muslim. Then when he became Muslim and used to walk in the streets of Medina, where was the shaitan? He used to take a different path. From darkness into light, ya ikhwan. Umar, without exception, the second greatest man to ever walk this earth after the prophets and messengers. Umar. Look at Allah takes the people out of darkness and brings them into the light, so much so that Allah raises them and enters them into Jannah. Made him a martyr for Islam. Shaheed Umar, Amirul Mu'mineen radiyallahu anhu. Then our children who are raised in Salafiyah, ya ikhwan. Raised in Salafiyah. What a ni'mah for them. What a ni'mah, ya ikhwan. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah mentions that when a person calls to misguidance, right, the point that I was making was that it is possible for a person to be ignorant. So when a person is ignorant, don't be harsh with him. Don't be harsh with them. Be easy with them. Like your parents, your relatives, your neighbors. They don't know. As for a person who is grounded upon his bid'ah, stubborn, mu'anid, strict upon it, stubborn upon it, and he doesn't want to leave it and he calls to it, then this one is different to the jahil. The jahil, you can teach him, you can call him, invite him to your house, sit him down, invite his family. Wallahi, sometimes I even invite kuffar to my house. I invite kuffar to my house that I've met. And I say, come to the house and have some tea, have some biscuits, we'll make a meal for you. Even a kafira once, we were doing with her, she's a producer in one of the radios, and she started asking us questions in the maktaba regarding Salafiyya and the Salafi way and the Salafi path and the difference between it and the Khawarij and the insurgents and the Takfiris. So through that contact, she used to ask a lot of questions. The belief of the Muslims with regard to the hijab. The belief of the Muslims with regard to the Sayyid Qutb and Ibn Taymiyyah. Why? Because after this 9/11, that the kuffar, the non-Muslims, they became interested in these affairs. And I recognized her eagerness. So it was the month of Ramadan. She said, we want to come up and we want to ask you questions. So I said, well, it's the month of Ramadan. Why don't you just come in the evening and you can break iftar and you can break the fast with us. So she said, I've never fasted in my life. I said, you don't have to fast. Of course, fasting is obligatory upon all of whom Allah's Messenger ﷺ was sent to. So fasting is obligatory upon the whole of mankind. But I can't force you to fast. It's up to you. What you want to do is up to you. She said, no, I'm going to fast. She said, I've never fasted in my life. So she fasted that day. She fasted the whole of the day, and then she came in the evening to my house. I found Abu Talha rahimahullah in those days. I said, Dawood, come. Come over, bring your wife, bring your family. Month of Ramadan, a few years ago. I said, come over and we'll have dinner. Insha'Allah, you and I will sit with the boys and your sons and my sons. We'll sit down together and send her amongst the women. Let them talk to her. So she came and she sat with the women. She Abu Talha's wife, Talha rahimahullah, and my wife and my daughters. She sat with them and she spent the whole of the evening with them. Right? Why? Is there harshness to be shown to these people, ya ikhwan, or gentleness? Gentleness, rifq, lean, easiness. Why? Because these are people, there was a time when many of us were in that situation. We didn't know anything. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided us. And that's why one of the Salaf, Ayyub al-Sakhtiyani in a narration, Ibn Shawdhab in another narration, he mentioned that from the blessings upon a youth, from the good fortune or the good, that which Allah has written for him of goodness from a youth, is that Allah guides him to a man of sunnah. So if you are that person of sunnah that they bump into whilst you're shopping in Asda, right? Sometimes, I remember on occasion, I had a lecture in Slough. So I dropped my family off with her family and my children, and then I drove to Slough. On the way to Slough, I came to a roundabout of a link road, like going onto the motorway. So it was an A road, roundabout, then motorway. And there was a family that their car, a people carrier, broke down on the roundabout itself. I was on my own, so I parked up my car. I got out of the car. It was an old lady, her daughter, and their children. And I said, sister, to the older lady, I said, auntie, what's wrong? She said, the car's broken down. We don't know how to start it. We don't know anything. I was already late for the lecture slightly. And I said, well, I'm not a mechanic or anything. So what we'll do is, I said, get into the car and I'll push the car so you can at least come off and you can park there. And then we can sort out phoning AA or whoever you want to phone, your relatives. So I got out and I started pushing. Another car stopped behind me, another Muslim. He got out and he started pushing. All right, we pushed to one side. Oh Allah, as I was standing there, the auntie started making dua. As I was standing there, may Allah reward you, may Allah have mercy upon you, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you Jannah, may Allah making dua. Is this not da'wah, ya ikhwan? Right? She wasn't covered. She was an old lady, but she wasn't covered. Just had the Asian dupatta, as you call it, or the whatever. That's all she had on. But she recognized that these people, look, they help. And there is goodness in them. So we are not harsh to the army. We are not harsh upon the general folk. Our harshness is reserved to who? Like Ibn Taymiyyah said, the callers to bid'ah. Those who are stubborn upon their innovation. Don't want to let it go. You tell them, Ya akhi, fear Allah. Prophet ﷺ did this, you're doing that. The aqeedah of the Salaf is this and you follow another aqeedah. And then he starts arguing, fighting with you. Months go by, still fighting, calls to his innovation. This one, we don't marry our daughters to. Nor do our sons marry into their families if their daughters are like this also. Like the case with Imran bin Hittan. Married a Kharijiyah. You know he's a narrator in Sahih al-Bukhari? From the narrators, Bukhari narrates from him. Right? And they say, some of the scholars, they say that he narrates from him because this was before his bid'ah. So he married, they used to say that he is a man of sunnah, from Ahlus Sunnah. He met a family of Khawarij. So what did he say to himself? I'm going to convert her. Marry her, bring her to the sunnah. What did he do? Married her, fell in love with her, and she took him to bid'ah. And then he wrote poems praising the killing of Ali radiallahu anhu by Abdurrahman ibn Miljim. The same Imran. Narrator in Bukhari, ya ikhwan. Look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how when we say that our hearts are stronger, they can't misguide me. They can't misguide me. My heart is strong. I'll deal with them. I'll debate with them. I'll argue with them. With who? The callers to bid'ah. I will listen to their lectures on YouTube and I will pick out their faults. No, ya ikhwan. That is not for you. I fear for myself. I fear for myself. Just as the Salaf used to say, look at Muhammad bin Sirin. When they came to Muhammad ibn Sirin, what did they say to him? Those people, those Qadariyah. They said, let us debate with you. He said, I do not wish to debate with you. Let us recite the Quran to you. He said, either you will get up and go, or I will get up and go. Why? Because he feared in his heart that they may say something and they may misguide him, as Ibn Battah mentioned, rahimahullah. So do not be of those people just want to listen to everything, watch everything, see everything. No, don't be a busybody. If you know the haqq, hold on to it and don't look to the right, don't look to the left. What these books tell you, Sheikh al-Fawzaan, Sheikh Rabi's books, Sheikh Ubaid's books, Muhammad ibn Hadi, bin Baz, Al-Albani, Muqbil bin Hadi, that is enough for you. That's the asl of the affair. The asl is what? To withhold. The asl isn't to dive. And then when someone tells you, why have you gone into this affair? Then they say, well, what's the problem? The problem is that you're not supposed to enter into an affair in the first place up until you've investigated. Look what he said. Barbaharee. Hard, ya ikhwan. I know, wallahi, because the number of times I asked the brother, I know how hard it is upon the people. They find it hard because in the society that we have, this liberalism, freedom, listen to everyone's opinions. It is because the Muslims have opened their hearts and ears to these ideas that now, wallahi, 20 years ago, I never used to hear any Muslim ever saying that he has doubt that Allah created Adam with his own two hands, even the most ignorant Muslim. In fact, the Muslims are so firm upon this affair that they used to laugh when the kuffar used to talk about the human being coming from a monkey. Over the last year alone, brothers, after this dars, or after the Jummah khutbah, or when I go to London or to a conference in America here, brothers will come to me and say, I have a family member, he's got doubts. I said, what's about? He doubts about the creation. I said, why does he doubt about the creation? He said, because he's confused about this evolution. Why? Because they open their ears, ya ikhwan. You open your ears to theories that in reality, you know, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he is from the minority, from the rare great scholars of this ummah, that he would dive into an affair because of his immense, tremendous knowledge. He would dive into an affair, delve into it deeply to refute the people of bid'ah. So much so that he would know about the affair more than the people of bid'ah. Shaykh al-Islam has a statement in which he said that when a person dives into kalam, rhetoric and speech and theology and philosophy of the people of bid'ah, no one exits it except for a genius, one whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed. So he goes into it and it sounds academic. It looks intelligent. But when he goes into it, he realizes how foolish and silly and nonsensical it is. That's why Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari rahimahullah, that's why he left the ideas of the Mu'tazila. That's why Shaykh al-Islam, when he went into it to refute them, and he's only the likes of Shaykh al-Islam, Ibn Taymiyyah, and those similar to him that entered into these affairs of bid'ah to refute them. That when they delved into them and they exposed every detail of innovation, they realized its foolishness. And that's why the Ami, when he looks at evolution, it makes sense to him. Why? Because he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know anything about physiology, about the human body, about how it is created. He thinks that it's just a cell. And the cell is just like a brick, like the brick that I'm touching behind me. So all of these are just built together, and eventually the human being is formed of these. One cell in the human body is as complex as the dunya itself. That's just one cell. How that cell in itself is like a universe in itself. How it feeds, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sustains it, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes the harm away from it, because the cell excretes harmful matter. The cell itself, it eats, it consumes nourishment by the permission of Allah. The cell itself, the way that it maneuvers, the complexity of the cell is like a universe in itself. So it's not just like a brick that is put together. So don't be deceived, ya ikhwan, by the people of misguidance and by the people. The idea is that you do not enter it into the first place. Become strong upon your religion. If Allah makes you like Ibn Taymiyyah, then come, and then you can delve into their affairs. But up until then, and you are not of the level of Ibn Taymiyyah, or Bin Baz, or Al-Albani, or the likes of Ibn Uthaymeen, up until then, ya ikhwan, let us know our level, keep away from these ideas. Barak.